G'day there guys, it's your Aussie hubby Markee, back at it again with another episode of r/legal advice. Now, if you don't know anything about legalities or laws or counties or states, that's cool because neither do I, and we're going to do this together. Hope you enjoy the content, sit back, relax, and enjoy some legal advice. Posted by user Throwaway Taxes 407, titled, STBX is threatening me with getting sent to prison because I made a mistake on the taxes and may have stupidly or inadvertently committed a crime, Florida. Every time I talk about leaving, he says things such as, he will crush every aspect of my life, or he will make sure I can't be happy. He will then text me a bunch of can we stop fighting texts later in the day. I feel insane, so sorry if this is jumbled. In February, we got our W-2S and saw we were going to owe the IRS money. First time in my life. He then flips out and says he will file for a divorce because why is he going to pay to be married to me? He's a peach. What? We ended up not filing right away since why should the IRS get our money sooner than necessary? Fast forward to the height of the pandemic. I work in a grocery store. My brain is fudging fried between people being terrible and this man blowing up my phone with his insane accusations every day of me having an affair because we were in a pandemic, and my hours are longer as a grocery store employee. I go home, look at taxes again on the online program we use, and it now says we are getting a refund. I pick married, filing jointly, not thinking about it, sign the electronic signatures, as he has in the past years when he filed our taxes while I was at work. I also decided to set up a bank account in my name, only for it to be deposited into, as this man has $20,000 in a bank account that I didn't know about until after I signed a post-nuptial, and I have zero in savings. He had also gotten a $50,000 settlement from a car accident, which he put 100% down on a new, second car for himself. I just wanted this money for me, and I know it was crappy. Fast forward, he logs into the tax software, sees I'm getting a refund, and flips when he sees that the money is going into a bank account he didn't know about. I offer to give him half once the money comes in to be fair. I thought I filed correctly, but turns out his income was missing. So I immediately corrected the IRS form and sent the money back to the IRS. STBX is telling me no, I committed tax fraud as he has me on recording through our home monitoring system that I offered to split the money with him, attempting to make him an accessory. I offered to split the money with him before I realized I made a mistake filing. He also tells me I committed identity theft by signing his electronic signature, he's signed mine before when he filled our taxes, and theft from trying to steal his tax money. I don't know what to do as he now lords the recording over my head, and tells me he doesn't want our son to see me thrown in prison. He is using it as one of his many threats to force me to stay and work on the relationship instead of abandoning my family. Sorry if this is jumbled, I'm really tired. Fire away. Nobody is going to jail over a minor filing error. You can relax. You should stop communicating with him and start talking to divorce attorneys. Any issues with assets and tax refunds will be dealt with by the divorce settlement. You've already solved the problem. You're done. There is nothing left to do. At least with the taxes, the divorce is a different story. So it was identity theft or anything to sign electronically, I had to put in a number I picked for me and him. He is saying it was identity theft, etc. I am a CPA. In the strictest terms, you should not have signed for him, but he will have an impossible time trying to get anyone to believe that it was identity theft, and you corrected the issues. This video and signing the document is totally a non-starter, and means basically nothing. If it was a serious crime, more than half of married couples who filed taxes would be getting put in jail. He can speculate. He can also eat crap. Get a consultation with a divorce attorney. Just you and the attorney. It shouldn't be expensive, if it costs anything at all, to have a simple chat with him about the basics and what you want to do. To find an attorney, contact any local attorney in your area. They should be able to lead you to someone relevant, or you can reach out to your local bar association for another referral. Get a divorce attorney. Let them go through it, and they will help. Stop talking to your ex unless it's specifically about the kiddo. Might be time to start clicking the married, filing separately button on this one, As a tax accountant who prepares US and Canadian returns for people, I can say I wouldn't worry about it at all. People make mistakes on forms all the time, and sending in adjustments is extremely common. You would have to have actual intent to commit fraud, and would have to theoretically try to take the money and just keep quiet about it for anything major to happen. Submitting the adjustment and paying the new balance is the solution to at least that problem. So I guess my take on this is it just sounds like domestic violence, or escalation to domestic violence waiting to happen. The husband knows that she's actually done nothing wrong. He's just gaslighting her, and I believe that I'm using this term correctly, in that he's done so much wrong and hid so much from her in the past that he can just use this as leverage to continue to wail on his wife, and I don't agree with that at all. I think she needs to get away from him or report something here, because she seems like in a scary position here. Update to my soon-to-be ex and threatening me with tax fraud, etc., Florida. So today, after a verbal confrontation in my job's parking lot, my managers are going to have trespassing paperwork written up so he cannot harass me or intimidate me. I love them. He called me saying that he put off having me arrested last week. What an asshole. He also says, I went to the police with all of my evidence and you were looking at 4 felony counts. Don't know what the 4th one was. And I told the police to hold off for your sake because I don't want you to be handcuffed and arrested and humiliated at work. The officer gave me a fist bump and told me, I gotcha, bro. I said I'm calling an attorney and hung up on the phone. He had, what? How'd you get a fist bump through the phone? Spoke to my lawyer, and he said, and a kind Redditor has messaged me privately with the same phrase, trying to help me, that he is just using emotional terrorism, and I have to stop responding. He said there is no way the police are going to take tax fraud evidence from a citizen to go and arrest a person, especially that the tax situation was fixed, and the IRS was paid back, and the filing was already amended. So hopefully that is done. Thank you everyone who helped put my mind at ease. A lot of people don't understand how hard it is to let go of the fear grip that emotional abusers have on you, and how much panic and anxiety it causes. Absolutely, and this was the logical conclusion that this one was going to come to if those conditions were met, and I'm very happy that it did. Coming from me with no legal background besides, lawyer friends, it's easy to see he was just being manipulative and that his accusations held no water, and I'm very glad that it ended the way it did. Posted by user Resident Gain, titled, Estranged husband overdosed after our last court date, being sued for wrongful death, Illinois. This is as convoluted and embarrassing as the title suggests. I'll try to be concise. 14th of March 2019. Left husband after 6 years of documented physical abuse. Time/date stamped screenshots, photo and police reports, copies of which I still possess. 25th of March 2019, was granted no contact order pending disposition of felony domestic battery complaint. 13th of September 2019, petitioned for divorce. This case was continued pending disposition of criminal matter. 19th of February 2020, criminal matter was set for trial in April. Later that day, husband takes fatal dose of fentanyl and what is ruled an accidental overdose. 8th of March 2020, divorce case is dismissed, certificate of death is attached to my position, as opposed to his countersuit. Not sure if this is germane. This morning, was served a summons to appear in the wrongful death suit his sister has filed against me. She is seeking $175,000 in damages, which is coincidentally the amount of debt for which I have been liable had he won the divorce. She alleges that I fabricated the abuse for the sole purpose of inflicting emotional harm, and with the express intent of causing his relapse and suicide. Obviously, this is all BS. Obviously, I will respond. I have a stack of documentation almost 2 inches thick in my file cabinet, as well as digital copies, MRIs and CAT scans of a fractured orbital socket, discharge paperwork and photographs of 2nd and 3rd degree burns, emails and text messages in which he threatens to hurt or kill me, photos of ligature marks across my neck. My question to you guys, how on earth do I go about finding an attorney to represent me, and how expensive is this going to be? Vague ballpark, not actuals or anything close. I guess I'm trying to figure out how tightly I need to gird my loins for the crap storm ahead. I literally just pulled myself out of a giant hole that I had to dig to get away from him safely and to get the mental health support that I needed. I'm panicking that I will not be able to scrape together enough for a retainer, and I'm going to have to fight pro se. Edit, this is in Cook County, Illinois. Edit 2, I haven't heard back from my divorce attorney, but I spoke with a friend last night who is a corporate litigator and is going to send me some referrals. When I read him the text of her complaint, he actually laughed out loud and said while my situation was unfortunate and I do need to retain counsel, I shouldn't have anything to worry about because her claims are so outlandish. Thanks for all your advice. I will give an update once this is resolved. Don't you just love when the family comes after you as well in courts just to make matters a lot worse? It's like, it's not good enough that her brother is dead. Now the sister has to come out and do it, and that is absolutely disgusting. You need to find an attorney with a civil practice, with bonus points for family law experience. If you are represented during the divorce, your attorney there can probably refer you. Based on what you said, this is a pretty safe case for you. You obviously need to file an answer to avoid a default, but I would be very surprised if this survives a motion to dismiss. You might also check your homeowner's policy to see if this accusation of wrongful death is covered and if they have a duty to defend. Thank you for your response. I was being represented pro bono through a non-profit, and I don't think qualify for their services anymore. I did reach out for referrals though. I'm mostly trying to stem my panic that I won't be able to afford representation, and I'm going to screw up the paperwork somehow, and being found in default. What little savings I've been able to amass has been wiped out by COVID-related medical bills. Did your husband have any assets? Is there any chance there's money in the estate you ought to be inheriting? No, he had $175,000 in premarital students, which coincidentally is what she or his estate is seeking. And the firm representing her or it is the same firm that was representing him in both matters. Student debt does not continue after death in most cases. Only federally backed student loans are dismissed after debt. Private loans are still the responsibility of the estate. Bane Kilgrind says, reach out to them. They might have an idea of who can help you if they don't have the mandate. I did. I just feel guilty for bothering now when I make too much money to qualify for their services. Domestic abuse incidents have skyrocketed since the shelter-in-place order. You shouldn't. This is what they are for. It all matters. Likely, part of their services is giving people advice even when they don't qualify, and they likely have a bank of resources that they can easily share with you with little extra effort. Not just bonus points for lawyer type, it is very important to get a lawyer who specializes in the field your legal case and dispute is in. Also, if he died before you were divorced / the divorce was finalized, you may need to look into that estate stuff, with a lawyer of course. So estate / family lawyer of office who is both, so they can check with each other. Even if you did fabricate the abuse claims, there is an extremely tenuous link between you making false allegations against him and him overdosing on drugs. He chose to use drugs, and the overdose was an accident of his own making. I see, at most, a very casual link between your actions and his death. However, a wrongful death claim requires more than a casual link. That being said, some jurisdictions, not Illinois, allow intentional infliction of emotional distress as a basis for a wrongful death action, though the sister would have the burden of proving that you fabricated the claims. You will want to consult with a civil defense attorney ASAP. I really needed to hear this. While I am most certainly not fabricating anything, he was a terrifying drunk as the poorly patched holes in my walls and broken furniture attest. I didn't realize until this morning that I've been feeling guilty, because she is right, that I knew if I left he'd probably end up dead, like many drug addicts. That's part of why I stayed so long. Thank you so much for reminding me that I have nothing to feel guilty for. And someone else says to that original comment, kind of. Plaintiff's estate, assuming the sister has standing pursuant to a valid appointment by a probate court, can absolutely plead an IIED count in addition to wrongful death and survivorship counts under Illinois law. Illinois permits pleadings in the alternative, and one set of facts need not to be the basis for another. Common negligence can serve as the basis for the WD claims. Plaintiff doesn't need to win at the pleading stage, just plead a series of facts that could win. Consult with an attorney ASAP and edited for clarity. For reference, her rationale is that, in addition to fabricating the abuse, because I knew he had a history of drug abuse and suicidal threats and attempts, I should have known that he would intentionally overdose if I left him and took our dog. I'm sort of paraphrasing, but the complaint specifically asserts that claim. Alright, how ridiculous is that claim? You can't just know for a fact that someone is going to overdose if you escape abuse. What? Is she living in Fantasyland? What do I know? I'm a Dog says, well, I don't know if we can trust his legal advice, but definitely seek out someone. You can look up legal aid clinics. Is she being represented by an attorney? Litigating in Cook County is a different animal than anywhere else. Be sure to talk to an attorney before you file anything with the court. With the coronavirus orders in place, the judges are incredibly liberal right now with the extensions, but they usually are anyways. This case sounds like BS, but depending on if she is represented, in my experience, judges are reluctant to dismiss cases filed by reputable attorneys, even if they seem like total BS. If she is representing herself, then it is much more likely that you get in and out with a simple motion to dismiss. I am not giving you legal advice here, just my experience practicing in Cook County. She is being represented. I thought it was the same firm that defended him, but further research indicates it's a bankruptcy firm. Update. Sister-in-law suing for WD after ex's OD, Cook County, Illinois. I was initially going to wait to update until I had completely resolved the matter, but with court postponed until July, I figured I'd go ahead. In my original post, I did not mention that I work for a synagogue and am in the process of becoming a rabbi, because it did not feel germane at the time. However, an entire congregation learned of my situation in real time because the process server rang my doorbell in the middle of me reading Torah during Shabbat services on Zoom. By Saturday night, I had received several offers of pro bono representation. Interestingly, because I refused to admit the unmasked stranger demanding entry to my residence, he left the summons without me signing for it. So there are now 3 distinct grounds for dismissal. My attorney is also pursuing sanctions against her counselor. I cannot adequately express my gratitude to those of you who commented on my original post. You armed my prefrontal cortex with adequate ammunition to keep my amygdala at bay. I suppose thank you will have to suffice. Stay safe, be well, and best wishes to you all. Now that is r/I am very smart if I ever saw it. Posted by user Sue. What do we have here? Titled Right of Way Through Property WV. I'm posting this on behalf of my dad who lives in West Virginia. Great song, that one. For some background, in 2009 he bought a piece of property that's about 90 odd acres. The land was relatively undeveloped, save for a couple logging roads at the front entrance. The land is roughly a trapezoidal shape, with the most narrow portion being up against the road for about 100 yards. The only clear entrance is there, as the other 3 sides border on other properties. When purchasing the property, my dad had the survey updated and gathered a local terrain map. After a lot of digging, my dad found the owners of the surrounding properties, 4 in total, and contacted them to let them know about the purchase and the updated property lines. The surveyors, or who thoroughly marked everything with stakes and orange tags. 2 of the properties are pretty much vacant or used for ATV trails. The other 2 have homes on them. Over the years, my dad has slowly worked on clearing ATV trails and whatnot, and actually built a home that was finished in 2018. While clearing brush in 2015-ish, he found a deer feeder and a game camera in an old hayfield in the north corner. He duct taped signs to both saying to remove the feeder and camera or he will destroy them. Both the feeder and camera were moved about 20 yards, but still within my dad's property. Since they were there, my dad trashed the deer feeder. It was a plastic homemade setup and pitched the camera. A few weeks after, the owner of the camera and a feeder, a neighbor named John, threatened my cousin with a handgun. My cousin was there, with permission from my dad, in blaze orange, riding the cleared trails on his ATV. Cousin called the cops for trespassing and the threat. The cops removed John, and he spent the night in jail. Since then, things have been extremely sour with John and his son, who live on the adjacent property. Despite this, we have evidence that John has been on and used my dad's property until my dad formally moved on the property in 2018. Now to the meat of the problem. John contacted my father, informing him that he, John, will be filing for a right-of-way through the property once his home is built. According to the information my dad had from the purchase, John owns the property parallel to my dad's with access to the road. While digging around, my dad found that John separated his property in two last year, early 2019, and sold the lower portion, the piece adjacent to the road, to his son. Does John have a leg to stand on? My dad Get it, guys? My dad mapped out that right-of-way trail and road would cut off the hayfield and join to his private driveway 50 yards from his, my dad's home. He's done all this to have privacy and seclusion, and now someone is trying to put up a road right through the almost middle. Does West Virginia even have a right-of-way law for private property? Edit to link, Dad's land. That's right, guys. There's a Microsoft Paint document here of the land. What does it mean? It looks like a weird kite to me. There's got a question mark there. I don't know what any of this is. This is the land split over there. It doesn't make any sense to me, but nonetheless, I'm going to keep it in the background. The black at the bottom is the existing highway. Purple shape is Dad's land, with the dot being his home. The red is roughly his private driveway. Blue is John's land, with the green being the new lower portion to the sun. Large blue circle is roughly John's build site. Pink is owned with a home. We don't know how big or where their access is. The yellow and orange on the side are the ATV properties. Edit 2. Dad is now also concerned about his gate at the head of the property where the driveway meets the road. It is a cattle gate that is locked with chain and padlock. John has already had the foundation done on his building site, given that he didn't come through the property to do this. Does that help my dad in any way? Not a lawyer, but currently landlocked myself. Your dad is going to need an attorney. If there was never a road or any recorded easement for John on your dad's title, and John had access to his property via a road, then split it leaving no access, he landlocked himself. A judge would most likely make him put the easement on his son's property where the former road and access is. Your dad needs to keep the lock on his driveway gate and never let John use it, or he risks setting a precedent for a further easement. The fact that he didn't need access to build his home is a strong argument in his favor, but this is not DIY territory. I'm not a lawyer. I've had to deal with access into easements, etc. in my rural community. John has no claim on your land. The sale to his son should have included an easement to the landlocked portion. Presumably, this is how he is accessing his land now. Of course, he may try. May be worth the peace of mind to have a lawyer send him a nice letter advising him to work out access issues with his son, as you cannot help. It's been a while since I've had property, but if I remember correctly, a landowner can actually landlock himself and doesn't acquire an easement by necessity over land he has conveyed to a third party. If he had conveyed the landlocked property to his son, then the son would have acquired an easement by necessity. Yes, he should have included an easement, but he didn't, so he doesn't get a free one. This doesn't actually bear on OP's question, since the landlock postdates the division of OP's dad's land from John's. And I'm going to read this one just because I can. Can you go to your Paint app and draw a picture of the layout, then upload to Imgur and link? No need to make it pretty or anything. We have a lot of love for crappy MS Paint pictures here. Don't we ever? I'm having a bit of trouble picturing the relative positions of the properties and where he would like the right of way. Is the lot John lives on completely surrounded by other lots with no road access after selling half to his son? How does he access the land now? Are the lots developed with houses? Is there an extant right of way on the assessor's map, like the logging trails? Added a pic. A lot of it is guessed because I'm in Texas and going off pure memory in terms of property lines and maps. To our knowledge, John's new property has no other access. The lots are not heavily developed. It's a one house per several acres sort of setup. He doesn't need to access it now, considering there is no home there at present. From what we gather, he is still living in the son's home on the lower lot. I do not know about the assessor's map. Thanks. That helps make a lot of sense of it. I really like your choice of color and texture. It really brings out the life in the picture. I am seriously disappointed in the lack of excitement over your crappy MS Paint, but I digress. Congratulations to John. He's officially an idiot, absent and extant right of way, and the fact he split his own property that had road access and landlocked and undeveloped lots, he screwed himself. There is an extraordinarily low chance that he would prevail in court fighting to obtain use of your father's lot. I use extraordinarily low here because no, isn't a very professional way to phrase it. And technically, there is always some chance of factors we don't know here to surface. On top of the fact that it's generally not possible to decide to develop a landlocked property and decide that an adjacent lot has to give up land for access in a situation like this. The expense of litigation that one would almost assuredly lose just for spite is one of those don't cut off your nose when you're mad at your face type things. In your father's position, I'd probably just ignore him until he actually serves your father with a lawsuit trying to force the matter. Since it will cost him $10,000 at least to retain an attorney willing to do it, I'd put the chance of that happening in the no range of possibility as well. But you never know. Most of us here wouldn't be employed if there weren't so many dim-witted and splenetic people out there. Best of luck. They also say from the OP, there is no extant right-of-way on the assessor's map. Dad says logging was done, but was limited to just the property using the main entrance, and didn't expend more than 75 yards into the yard. Most of the overgrown ATV trails were done by locals and the adjacent ATV property. The only road on the survey at the time of purchase is now the private drive. And I hope this fulfilled everything you guys were looking for. There is not an update to this one, but you got a crappy MS Painting out of it, so give yourself a pat on the back. We deserve this. It was beautiful. Thank you, America. G'day there guys, Outro Markee here. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. Now with that said, we have some special mentions. Everyone that signed up for my Patreon, everyone that's a channel member, you guys all know who you are. I'm going to start putting you on screen in the near future. Sorry, I'm very lazy, but I do love each and every one of you, and you all know that. If you want to join, there is links down in the description below. If you want to be a channel member, there's a join button next to subscribe. It helps me out immensely. Also, I have a second channel that does memes. It's called Markee 2. It should be on screen here now. If you like memes and you want to laugh with me, it's some not so politically correct content all the time. Hope you enjoy it. Click on the screen, subscribe, and enjoy the memes. That's all I have for today, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.